Toronto Defiant and Ents met in the lower bracket quarterfinal at the Dallas Major. Toronto are a hyper-flexible team in the Kings of NA, dominating a region that lacks proper funding and thus doesn't stand much of a chance. Ents were the second best in EMEA, and much like their first place counterpart, SSG, excelled at brawl compositions in particular. Ents took the first map, Busan, in a competitive 2-1 series, leaving Toronto Defiant with the next map pick. Toronto's choice was Gibraltar, a map that greatly favors dive compositions and can be used to exploit Ents' lack of flexibility. Toronto are on defense and Ents are on attack. Kevster looks for a quick shot out of spawn and then swaps over to Echo. Now, before we actually take a look at this first fight, let's take a closer look at each team's composition. Both Ents and Toronto are on dive compositions, and that much I'm sure most would be able to assume. But not all dive compositions operate in the same way. Toronto's composition can be broken down into two fundamental parts, the front line and the core. The front line is composed of Winston and Tracer. These two will execute hits, also known as dives. These hits create space and open up opportunities for the core to aggress. This front line will be the focus of today's video. The core is composed of Anna, Brig, and Cassidy, and the core's role is to control important spaces on the map, and brawl with the opponent when needed. The core generally plays close together and stays tight-knit, while the front line coordinates hits but doesn't necessarily stack. The key to Toronto's composition is how these two squads work together. The front line can't go for hits that are too far away from the core, otherwise RuPaul can't hit nades or heal someone, and Merritt can't obtain proper sightlines to help finish kills. This composition is all about balance. The core acts as a formidable force that can control key locations on the map, using Cass and Brig to sustain and survive attempted dives, while the front line orbits the core looking for hits and assisting them when needed. Ents' composition is simpler. Rather than a core and a front line, this composition is essentially one big front line. All 5 players will participate in hits and generally play together. There's one exception though, that being Kai on Tracer, who can move freely throughout the map and act as a one-man unit if needed. One more key difference between these two compositions is the tank pick. Winston and D.Va both essentially do the same exact thing, and both act as dive tanks. In Overwatch 2 though, Winston has almost always been stronger than D.Va, especially at the professional level. The simple reason for this is that Winston's bubble is stronger than D.Va's DM. Bubble is easy for both Winston and Tracer to use to block any type of damage during a hit, while also being able to shoot, while D.Va's DM is simply less versatile. It's very easy to throw a bubble on the enemy backline during a hit, or throw a bubble on your own backline to protect them and help them take an advantageous brawl. Versatility is the key to Winston's success. We will see this versatility in full with this tank matchup. Let's get started with this map. Sugar Free starts low ground, while the rest of Toronto stages high ground. Someone drops first hit, and he decides not to push it, immediately jumping back to safety. With Winston, dropping and then jumping away is one of the easiest and lowest risk hits that you can execute, so we will see someone use this approach often. What you might notice here is that Toronto is not making a major effort to contest the cart yet. Gibraltar's first point is complicated, and even professional players struggle with it, so I'll do my best to simplify. The most valuable spaces on this point are in the server room and these two high ground positions, with this blue box being particularly invaluable to defenders. The payload on this map runs underneath the high ground, and if you just try to force underneath this 5, it is extremely hard to push out from this area here. It's a deadly kill box surrounded by oppressive positions that can feel impossible to break through. This, of course, presents an issue. To win and make progress, you must push the cart, but to win, you must also maintain a certain level of control over the map. The easy solution teams found to this issue was to either A, have someone from the front line, especially someone such as Tracer, push the cart while the rest of the team fights over high ground, or B, push the cart until you get to the kill box, then regroup and attack the high ground as 5. Both of these solutions are reasonable. It's kind of like a game of chess. If the attacking team places just a Tracer on cart, the defending team is forced to send their own Tracer to contest. The attacking team is literally putting the defending team in check. It is a forced response. If both teams fight over the high ground and ignore cart once it reaches the kill box, both Tracers just fight over high ground. Simple. Now, you can probably understand why Sugar Free is setting low ground, and why Toronto are waiting to contest the cart. They don't care about contesting until they reach that critical kill box area, and then they will just match whatever Ents decides to do. Ents first pushed the cart a bit underneath, while Toronto's frontline responded with a soft hit, not wanting to overcommit in an area that isn't visible to the core. Now, Ents wants to make their move, shifting gears and quickly rotating up to the high ground. Someone in Sugar Free react quickly. Someone jumping up onto Blue Box and using Bubble to assist the core, while Sugar Free takes the stairs up onto high, finishing a key kill on Masa. Someone does chase Vistola for a moment, but decides to back off, playing it safe and patient. A few quick zaps, a bubble, and he escapes with a bit more ult charge. This next fight might be a bit of a fundamental macro diff, and to make the questionable decision to take this fight by forcing cart as a team. This is a really easy fight for both someone and Sugarfree to take. As Vistola flies up from the cart to attempt to contest Toronto's core on blue box, someone just drops down and throws down the bubble, while Sugarfree commits and places even more pressure on Kevster. The bubble breaks, and both teams disengage from underneath. During this fight, Vistola can't do much at all with this hit. He's essentially fighting alone, it's near impossible for Kevster to assist from this angle, and the only one who can kind of help is Kai, but a D.Va Tracer on their own is not going to beat Toronto's core. Even putting a dent in the core with a hit like this is pretty difficult. Vistola then goes for his second hit of the fight, and this one is a bit more effective. Kevster managed to find an angle, and Ence's supports were present to back him up. Someone matches blue box once again, and Vistola backs off after Merit's pick onto Kevster. Merit also lands a nade onto Kai, who's stranded on point and finished by Sugarfree. Again, someone drops down and throws a bubble onto Ghost, refusing to let up the pressure. Vistola moves to Mark, someone jumps up to match blue box, and assists with the finish onto Ghost. This fight might have been already won for Toronto, but it isn't over just yet. Vistola is alive and attempting to get back to spawn, and Toronto's frontline just wasn't going to let that happen. Sugarfree chases from underneath, while someone chases up top. A quick bit of poke from both players, and Vistola is demeched. This forces Vistola to give up 80% ult charge so that he can swap in spawn to regain mech. This situation was tough for Vistola. Dying last as D.Va means your opponent will likely stagger you, which is absolutely brutal, especially when there isn't a nearby void to die in. So Vistola needed to try and escape. The demech meant Vistola was choosing between jumping into the void to reset or giving up ult charge to regain mech. At his position, Vistola was at least 7 or 8 seconds away from being able to jump off the edge, so the stagger would have delayed Ence's attack by at least 15 seconds. Vistola made the right choice and gave up his charge. Both teams have impressive ult banks for the next fight. This fight will be determined by Toronto's ability to sustain through Ence's engagement and ultimates. Ence begins by rotating up onto the high ground. Sugarfree and Kevster briefly duel, but Kevster backs off, with Sugarfree rotating the match. Someone is set up on the forward high ground, the core is set up on blue box. Ence decide to ignore someone and take the fight directly to blue box, throwing down the Kitsune and using Kevster's copy on Ana. During this aggressive play, Sugarfree lands a great pulse onto Masa, who only survives because he was already far enough into the beat animation to avoid an Ajax. It's important to note that someone also made a bit of a mistake here, throwing down Bubble when Ence were actively ignoring him, so he didn't get much value out of it. Vega uses Rally to help the core stabilize, and someone chases the rear of Ence, using Primal to survive the stick from Kai. Merit is also taken down with a kunai headshot by Ghost, and this is where things get a bit messy. Toronto need to play their cards right. Kevster nanos Vistola, but Vega survives with the assistance of someone's Primal. Vistola is forced away, and now Toronto can look to re-engage. For a moment though, let's talk about someone's goal in Winston and how he can adapt his playstyle. In an on-a-brig dive mirror, each frontline will pressure the opposing backline, so you're most always jumping in and looking to engage on backline targets. Ence's composition is different though. All of Ence, all 5 members, want to take this fight directly to Toronto's core, so the frontline's job changes to slowing them down. Since someone knows that Ence will be taking the fight to his core, he doesn't need to jump in. Someone walks out through the right door and throws down a bubble. For a moment, someone can contest point and can also jump away at any time. This bubble will also help Toronto's core to walk out through the right door behind him. This is exactly what happens. RuPaul is able to walk out uncontested and nano someone, who chases Vistola and forces Kevster away. Sugarfree is the cleanup crew. While Ence are distracted with someone, Sugarfree wins the Tracer 1v1 in dominant fashion, making his way back afterwards to finish a demeched Vistola and the remainder of Ence's backline. Ence now has 40 seconds left to take their final fight. For anyone doubting Vistola's decision to concede his ult charge, it is now clear that Ence likely wouldn't have had the luxury of this final fight if he hadn't. Toronto have moved their core from blue box over to the far high ground. This is due to the cart's position. It's better to use this area here as a kill box rather than the previous corner back here. Ence see this and make a rather clever rotation, starting underneath and having Vistola engage from the indoor staircase while Kai and Kevster rotate the whole way to high ground to take the blue box. Ence is taking the fight directly to Toronto's core, and someone knows that, so his response is to jump to assist his backline directly, throwing down an extremely valuable bubble. This makes it easier for the core to not only live through Ence's engage, but fight back. This is particularly useful for Vega on Brig, who doesn't have to be afraid to swing and can focus on offense rather than pure defense. Vistola's mech is broken, and Ence's hit was a failure. Someone drops down, free to roam, finishing Masa. Kevster makes a desperate attempt at a copy, but fails, and after Kai falls, the round is solidified, and Toronto moves on to their attack. ENCE make another questionable decision, deciding to attempt a spawn hold for the first fight with a Ramatra composition. On this map in particular, spawn holds are rare because it's just so difficult to hold. When the spawn hold breaks, you are also at risk of losing valuable high ground positions for the next fight. It's questionable as to if a spawn hold would ever even be worthwhile on this map. Toronto see this out of spawn, and Vega makes a swap over to Kiriko, realizing Brig wasn't really necessary here. It's fine to run greedy double flex support compositions into Brawl, since RuPaul no longer requires the same amount of protection. Listen into Toronto's comms here.
Alpha is a...
3, 2, 1. Attackers
A touch point. May.
Okay.
After wall goes down, I'm gonna nade, okay? Maze low.
계속. 람다포.
No block.
돈스 넣을게. 오케이.
Cast
돈스
it,
넣을게.
3, 2, nade.
네.
Ground point. Shooting ramp. Ramp no shield on point.
슛라.
A spawn hold is a game of resources, and Toronto understands that perfectly. They need to win a battle of attrition, forcing CDs until ENCE has nothing left. Toronto starts things out slow, and Vistola uses both ram form and shield, and now someone can drop down with a proper hit.
Shooting ramp. Ram low. Shoot ramp. Push ramp. Ram one. Nice.
Wait, take our. Cast loss.
What someone did here is drop and bubble ENCE's backline, preventing them from helping Vistola, who is outside contesting cart. Someone calls for his team to focus the ram while he keeps the backline occupied.
Shooting ramp.
And this makes perfect sense. Block off heals, focus the tank, and then you win the fight by default, breaking the spawn hold. Toronto really only need one more solid fight to take this map. Sugar Free's on cart duty, as is normal for the Tracer player, while the core prepare to follow up on someone's hit. The first rotation ENCE need to make is short, from door to door, but Toronto won't give anything for free. RuPaul lands a massive nade while someone performs a drop hit as a follow-up. The seamless hit forces Ghost's immortality in Kefster's wall. This hit may have not provided a kill, but it was extremely valuable. Vistola looks to chase Merit, making for an easy pulse from Sugar Free, a pulse that would not have been possible if Ghost had immortality available. Someone is ready to follow up. He drops down, shoving the door with Bubble, while Sugar Free pinches from the opposite door. ENCE are surrounded and are forced to make a desperate hit out on point to try and contest and potentially get a pick before resetting. Toronto clean things up, and now ENCE need to try and go for one more touch. Someone in Sugar Free set up to hit close. Someone can afford to do this because he has Primal. Someone walks in, and the disruption from this combined frontline effort is enough to allow Toronto to secure the map.
Don't you worry about it. Oh! Don't you worry about the payload either. We've got it. Toronto Defiant locked that map in with ease.
Although Toronto did take this map in dominant fashion, the rest of the series didn't go their way, with ENCE ending victorious 3-1. The entire series was competitive, enough so that it might be worth covering another map in the future. Toronto's a team you can't underrate. Someone is one of the best tank players in the world, and Sugar Free in particular is a strong up-and-coming flex DPS player. I don't doubt that the team can go farther at the Grand Finals in Sweden. Are there any OWCS matches you want to see in the future? Let me know down below. I'm always searching for good maps to cover, so suggestions are actually very helpful. As always, like and share these videos so that I can afford to keep putting them out, and thank you for watching.